All right. So if you label your foods, good foods, bad foods, anything like that, I'm going to tell you why that's probably not good for you. That is okay that you've thought that. And I'm going to give you some other things to think about, including 6 tips to stop doing that so you can make confident food choices on your path to freedom and fitness. So, welcome back. My name is Reggie. I'm the founder of Fit for Freelance, where I build adaptive business leaders through compassionate health coaching. And I wanted to talk to you about this because it came up yesterday on my Instagram. I like to post some motivational stuff, and I'm using some things out of Cookie Monsters, The Joy of Cookies. Love this book. They like remix classic quotes to make them, inspiring, but it's all about cookies. Um, I can tell you about that a different day, but here is the one I posted yesterday. Ginger, chip, sugar, cookie by any other name would still taste as sweet. So hello, chip. And I thought that was entertaining. And it's related to this old school quote that you might recognize from Shakespeare. "'Tis but thy name that is mine enemy. What is Montague? It is not hand, nor foot, nor arm, nor face, nor any other part. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet." And that's Juliet, from back in the day, old school poem, right? So the thing is, when did you decide to label foods as good or bad? When, like, was it a conscious choice? Did you do it on purpose? Do you still do it, or is it something that you just kind of realize, like, oh yeah, everyone does this, or one day you did it? I really want you to start to question that. And if you do that now, what's your intention behind it? Is it to help you separate foods, make it so like those foods are bad, I don't want to do those, I don't want to be a bad person, I don't want to do bad things, so I don't eat those bad foods? Or are those foods actually beating you up? But here it is, the question: if it's so bad, why does it taste so good? And what happens when you label your foods as good or bad straight up like that? You have the tendency to, if you eat a bad food, feel guilty. So this is a poll that I put on my Instagram. Do you feel guilty when you eat bad foods? And almost everyone that responded said yes. And only like a couple dudes that are like super hardcore, like, nah, that's stupid. Right. So I want to take a closer look at this and how we label foods and why it matters and why we should switch that up. Okay. So let's start with something. I get into this every once in a while. I'll try to keep it short for, YouTube, but there is a difference between something that exists and our experience of it. Okay. And so here we're talking about often things just exist, which sounds kind of stupid in that context. But if you add it to this food context, it doesn't matter. Like, the food is just there unless you interact with it. Okay. Like, it's not like you're thinking about an egg roll in China until I just said that kind of thing. Okay. And also, what you call a thing doesn't fundamentally change what it is. And this is a big thing about essence and experience and perspectives, and how people can have different perspectives on the same thing. And food is really kind of a central element to your health habits and like your existence. So you want to think about how you are looking at this and labeling your foods so you can be healthy and make healthy choices more often. Okay. So it's not just the food, like the food is just there, but it's the stories that we tell ourselves about the food that make the difference. All right. So leave a like if that's starting to make sense to you. So good and bad are these emotional labels that we have that are inherently, like, you feel a certain way when you say the word good versus, bad. And like, you can start to associate that with like stormy weather or like the color gray or something like that. And like, these have emotional feelings, but you don't necessarily have to apply this to your food. And also, it doesn't have to be automatic. So what I'm trying to do here is create some separation there, so you recognize that you don't have to label your foods good or bad, and that's going to give you more autonomy in these choices. And I'm going to give you those 6 tips in just a moment here. Okay, so some foods, there is something behind this, right? When you're looking at food, some foods have more energy and calories, or some are more nutritious, or some will be worse for your health over time. But that doesn't mean that you have to assign a character trait to the food. Okay, and some of the problems when you are labeling your foods good or bad is that you can create a lot of temptation for foods that are not good. So then you start to focus on, oh no, I don't want that biscuit or that cookie or whatever junk food that you're trying to avoid. You'll put that in your mind, and then you kind of focus yourself onto it, and that makes it more of an issue for you. And then if you eventually give in to that sense of temptation, you'll feel guilty because you've had that bad food, and then you also feel mentally weak from not having enough self-discipline. And that's really counterproductive if you're trying to make these changes or if you're trying to lose weight or anything like that. So 6 tips I have for you. Let's get into them. One, let the food exist. It's not even bothering you. And that's a major part. I've done this before when I was talking about trying on clothes. When something is there, or it just exists, you don't have to engage with it at all. And really, the more attention you pay to it, the more like you study it, the more in depth that you come to know it, then you start to assign these emotional connections to it, right? Like that egg roll in China example I just gave. Like you don't even think about it. So just because something exists doesn't mean that you have to put your focus on it. Just let it exist and not bothering you. Two, focus on what you want. Okay. And so if you don't want to do something, it's a good first step, but the next step is to focus on what you do want. So if you're trying to eat less healthy foods, then focus on eating healthier foods or finding something that you do want to eat that's going to match your goals. And this is why clear vision and focus helps so much. This is something we work on with the guilt-free game plan and the guilt-free framework, because when you know what you want in the big picture, you're able to better attach to that and direct yourself towards that versus like something that pops up like a little road bump or a little speed bump. Yeah, this is a good one. A little speed bump comes up and you're like, oh no, it's a speed bump. How am I going to get over it? This is a big problem. Versus like, okay, I'm going across the state. I don't have to worry about this little speed bump. I can just maneuver around it. I can go over it. Like, it's not going to be an issue. Okay. And that's something we do with the guilt-free framework, so you can take confident ownership of your path to freedom and fitness. And we give you that clear vision and focus so you know what you're aiming for long-term. And then these little temptations and these bad foods that'll pop up like all over the place are less of a problem for you. Okay. Third tip I have for you, eat what you want. And there's no need to feel bad about it. This is major for a lot of people because you don't have to feel bad about anything. You don't have to do anything like at all when it comes to changing your health or losing weight or eating healthier. And so fundamentally, that is what this is pointing at. Like, and if you have something that you want to eat it and feel good about it and enjoy it because, you have the opportunity to eat something delicious. That's not feel bad about it. Just eat what you want. Fourth tip I have for you, pay attention to how your body feels after eating. So if you're eating something that's very high in fat or has a high sugar content or I don't know, has like alcohol in it or something like that, your body could feel differently. Pay attention to those feelings. That way you are aware of the feedback that your body's giving you. You might make different choices in the future when it comes to that. And it's also part of the experience of your food is knowing how it's going to affect your body and what kind of changes that's going to make. The fifth tip I have is be adaptive. Make it easier to make choices that match your vision. So if you were trying to make healthier choices more often, you're trying to limit these foods that you label as bad foods, and you have it, then what you want to do is create a system to adapt and change. So maybe your environment's different. It's not as accessible to get those foods. You have more water, you're drinking more water, you have more fruits and veggies, so you have more fiber, so you're not hungry when you see these foods. These are ways you can change your environment. Also, you can change things after you make your food choices to make it more rewarding, so that like paying attention how you feel. If you feel really good after you eat a bowl of cherries, then that's going to make it more fun for you to eat cherries versus if you feel bad about whatever other food like the chicken tenders that you had make your stomach hurt, then you'll recognize that and be less likely to do that. So that's the way you can change either before or after that food choice to make it more realistic, and you don't have to think about the label good or bad. Sixth tip I have for you, remember sustainable health habits last a lifetime. And that's something that I'm trying to shift in this health and fitness space is instead of these all or nothing crash diets where you restrict everything that's not considered a good food or a healthy food, and then you're like feeling bad about it all the time, you feel guilty, you feel mentally weak, you feel like you falling off the wagon, your life sucks and like it's terrible, like forget all that. We're not doing that. What we're doing is building sustainable health habits with goals that are aligned to the healthy, fulfilling life of your dreams. And that's a big thing that I'm focused on, instead of these little road bumps or these other things that are like very short term. These long-term habits can really make an impactful difference. And what happens if people are focused on avoiding bad foods, then they're running into these temptations, they're on these all or nothing diets, you fall off, and then either you say, oh, now I'm a bad person because I had that bad food, and you blow off the rest of the day, or the rest of the week, you're like, diet starts on Monday, or you just quit altogether. Leave a comment if that's you, because this is a common thing that happens when people try these all or nothing diets that just aren't realistic. So we want to make sure that the first step, or a major helpful step, is to not label your foods as good or bad. All right. And if you want more health tips, if you want to read some motivational stuff on my Instagram, you're welcome to follow me there. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, and then click like, because I appreciate that. And leave a comment if this makes sense to you, if you're ready to stop labeling your foods as good or bad. So that's 6 tips. Thanks for watching. Keep practicing. Peace.